Jabulani Kunjani. Welcome to part 2 of my career. Just finished working out, so I decided to stop by the restaurant and record this while it was kind of quiet out here, but well, we'll see. Referring to my notes, this is my experience being an assistant principal. I need to clarify a couple of things from the last video. I was mentioning that I got promoted from the middle school. The middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I was promoted because I was interviewing for assistant principal positions. I was given more leadership positions at the school when I was the 1 year I was a teacher. And I was promoted there. The principal recommended me because we didn't move into the building until February. The building was a brand new building, and we moved in February. So we didn't really have a chance to mesh as a staff. So I didn't really know all of the teachers. I was assigned to certain elementary schools. We were all in the feeder schools until the building was ready. And once we got into the building, I had a leadership position of being in charge of the connections department, which included home ec, what you know as home ec, the arts, music, band, computer technology. Those are all my department. I evaluated some of the teachers. I did like one of their evaluations of the year. So I had a lot of leadership responsibilities. The 8th grade happened to still be at the high school. So when it was time for us to move to the building, they actually left the 8th grade assistant principal at the high school as the 9th grade, which left a vacancy for which my principal requested me to fill. So that's how I became the 8th grade administrator for the first full school year there. So each grade level, 6, 7, and 8, we had an assistant principal that was in charge of attendance, discipline, and academics instruction. I was over discipline for the entire school, so I helped set up the discipline process procedures, which basically just use a template of an existing middle school. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just tweaked it to fit the needs of our school. Of course, I was over transportation. At the previous school, I had like 7 buses, maybe 8. At this school, I had 30. So one of the things that I did, I was assistant principal for a total of 5 years. And each year I would recruit teachers from other grade levels. Some of them had been my friends. We had been co-workers, so I knew what they were capable of doing. And we had a conversation when I got promoted. I told them, at work me is different from the social me. So I'm going to do my job. And if you're not doing your job, I'm going to have to deal with it. And if you see me outside, we're not going to discuss work. And we don't discuss outside at work. We don't discuss work outside. So they all respected that, and I liked that. But I was still the teachers from other grade levels. They caught on to it about the 3rd year, I think. And some of my fellow administrators went to the principal and said, I got to stop getting all the good teachers. But, I had the toughest kids, which leads me into some of the discipline that I had to deal with. Couple of stories that stuck out to me over the 5 years. Had an albino student that I had at the elementary school. I was actually his teacher, and then became his AP when he got to 8th grade. He was a behavior issue. They lived not far from the school. The school was on a major street, so there was a lot of traffic in front of the school. So most of our kids rode the bus or their parents dropped them off. So he missed the bus one day. And if you know anything about albinoism, you know that they have poor vision. This kid decided to rollerblade down this major highway, past the security to school, past the security desk, and into his classroom, where he plopped down on in his desk, pulled out a bottle of cologne, and just sprayed himself down. The teacher in the classroom was just shocked. I mean, not really shocked because we're not surprised that he did that, but it was just shocking. So I had to call his mom and tell her, which, let me backtrack a little bit. When I became an administrator, my biggest challenge was dealing with parents. It wasn't dealing with the kids, it was dealing with parents. As this parent is an example, when I called her and told her her child rollerbladed into the, down that busy highway, her concern was, well, at least he made it to school. I'm like, but your child, you want to deal with this? But he did some other things that, over the years. So I wasn't really surprised. My eighth graders thought they were grown. That was the purpose of having middle school, because they had grown up bodies. They had grown up bodies, but they had little children minds. So they would go to come to school, thinking they're grown and doing grown up things, but they'll be stupid with it. The students had to come in at the beginning of the day and sit at the bus, in the gym until time for them to go to class. So one student had a baby bottle, was drinking something in a baby bottle. Turns out it was wine. Called his folks, you need to come get your child. I don't know how much he's drank, but he can't be at school drunk. He can't learn drunk. The mother and the older sister came up. They were more upset about the fact that he took the sister's baby's bottle than him coming to school drinking wine. So that was the trip, but he had to go home. I used to have drug busts because kids used to bring illegal substances to school in the little plastic bags that you roll up and smoke. And so I found out, I would always catch one with, he would be suspended. There was certain, zero tolerance with drugs. And my eighth graders especially, they would always have it. So I would have to discipline, send them home. Actually, they got arrested. We had a police officer, school resource officer, who was an actual police officer that would actually do an arrest. One day, had 5 of them. And anytime he did arrest, I always would ask him to transport the child during class change, because I wanted to send a message to my kids. I want them to see that, yes, you bring drugs to school, you will get cuffed. You want to chill with the big boys, I'm going to treat you like a big boy. So you're going to be cuffed and you're going to be transported out. So I always ask them, the police car would be out there waiting, but we will wait until class change so that the kids can see their classmate being transported out. Parents will get mad, yes, like, you embarrassing my child. Your child got drugs up here. We're not talking about embarrassment now. Your child has broken the law. So I don't care about them being embarrassed. I'm sending a message to your child and to the other kids. One incident had 5 of them. I got everybody who had passed the package. If you had your hand on it, you were in possession. So I had 5 of them under arrest in my office. One young man was sitting, he kept sitting like with his leg straight. He wouldn't bend his leg. He had on sweats. Come to find out, he had a metal pipe in his pant leg. So that was a major, we had like a chain gang going down between during class change. So my kids knew I didn't play with them. They knew I loved them. I wanted them to be successful, but they knew I didn't play. I set up specific grade level consequences if they were targeted class, which they had no reason to be targeted class. Their teams, their doors were like 1, 2, 3, 4 right beside each other. You had no reason to be targeted class. So if you were tardy, I would get them where it hurt. They wanted to go to social events. No, you can't go to the game. No, you can't go to the dance. Don't worry about going to in-school suspension. I'm gonna get you where it hurts, where I know you want, where you want to, something that you want to do social. Because middle schoolers are very social, so I would get them there. Had a student open up a nail shop in the bathroom between classes. She ended up doing nails. What? Sagging was an issue. We had, I don't know if you know the zip ties that you can bundle items with, and it locks. Just a little plastic cord. I would get those, and they would call them Mac ties, which goes along with my last name. So you can get a Mac tie. So I would tie their pants on the side, tie the loops to the side if they didn't have a belt, and they couldn't, they could still open their pants, go to the restroom, but they could not sag their pants. And I would have to cut it off. They couldn't get it off. I would have to cut it off. And if I found out they cut it off, there was disciplinary action taken. I might just take the back tie and just, be done with it. Some parents started complaining about that, that it was too tight, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, put your child on a belt and we won't have to deal with this. So then I went to the Goodwill, which is like a discount retail store. And I bought the ugliest belts that I could find. And if kids came to school without a belt, they had to trade for a belt for the day. If you give me something like your cell phone, it was mainly the guys, so they would come with gym shoes or basketball shoes. They would change it to for PE. So give me your gym shoes, and I would hold them. And if you have PE that day, you either give me your street shoes. when it's gym time, and I will trade them out. But you're going to give me something if I give you this belt. So that worked a lot too. So I was very creative with my discipline. I said we had 30 buses. We had one student that was suspended. We were doing the dismissal. I think it was right before a holiday. We were doing dismissal. It was hot out there. The kids were excited. They were on 100, so we're trying to get them on their buses so they can go. Come to find out, the child that was suspended ran down the middle of the bus lane with a gun, just waving it. He wasn't doing anything with it. He didn't point it. He didn't fire it. Just waved it down, and then he jumped off into the woods because the school was basically surrounded by woods except for the front where the major street was. So I had to call the police, and they had a helicopter out there, and it's a big old thing. I built a really good reputation with my parents. I had a girl that, she was in trouble. I had a reputation that if I called you over the intercom to my office, which my hallway, I could see all my classes. My office was at the end of the hallway, and I could see all of my classes on either side. So I would call down to the, teacher's classroom, send student A to my office. And I would hear them, oh, you better take your bags because you ain't coming back. When you go to his office, you're not coming back, you're going home. So, the girl, I had to deal with her for a disciplinary issue. I said, what I'm going to have to do is call your mother. And she said, call the bitch. You just gave me such firepower because I immediately called her mother, put her on speakerphone, and I had to be dramatic with things because I need to get a response from the parent. So I said, ma'am, I have your daughter here in my office. She had a disciplinary issue, which I'll get to in just a minute, but my concern, the reason that I called you before I'm even finished with the investigation, is because when I referred to calling you, she said, call the bitch, referring to you as the bitch. I just built it up big time. This lady said, had that ass out there in 5 minutes. This lady called a taxi. She had on her bedclothes still, a gown and a bonnet. She came up there in front of the school. She didn't get out. We were waiting at the security desk for her to come and, get her daughter. Daughter started tearing up a little bit, and she motioned like this. She said, bring me the checkout slip. I said, checkout? You're not taking her home? She said, oh, yeah, she coming back. I'm taking her home, but she coming back. This lady signed her out from the taxi, took her home, did what she needed to do, came back in the same taxi. Now, she made the taxi wait while she did her motherly duties and brought the girl back to school. The girl was demure. So anytime I had problems with that child, moving forward, I would always say, no, I'm to call the taxi service, nigga. You ain't funny. I learned when I was a teacher not to break up girls. Girls grab, scratch, pull. I had my clothes ripped off of me, literally, when I was a teacher, because I taught at a middle school. So I don't break up girl fights. I don't. The guys, I would break up the guys. We're trained in ways to restrain children, and parents get upset because the kid will say, oh, he slammed me to the ground, or he did X, Y, and Z. The thing is, the training that we get is with a calm person. We're restraining a calm person, another coworker. So the kid is not going to, just let us do the maneuvers. So we have to be creative. We know the maneuvers to do. We attempt to do them, but we have to be creative because the child will fight back. So, fights, kids knew they were going to be at home for 3 days for whatever reason. One sad situation I had to deal with was when I had to expel a child. The student was a student, he had great grades, wonderful behavior. He and his parents were separated. So he spent the weekend with his father. No. He went on a hunting trip with his father over the weekend. And he took his school bag, and he had the hunting knife in the school bag. He saw it, he knew it, but he didn't say anything to anybody. But during the day, class change, he took his book bag out and the knife fell on the ground. I had no choice but to expel him. I called the district office and I pleaded with them. I said, is there anything else we could do? He had to be expelled and had the option to go to alternative school, where I knew that he just did not fit at alternative school. So I mentioned his parents. I said, "Do you all have anybody that he can go and live with for the rest of the year to finish out his school year in another state or something?" So that's what they did, because that was a hard one for me. But I had to, had to do my job. So I mentioned in the last video that the principal that hired me at the elementary school gave me her paddles when she retired, and I had them on display in my office. One was a hearing aid, and one was a hearing aid and a attitude adjuster. So they were in display in my assistant principal office, and I had a parent that came up, and she was a tough mama. So she was like, instead of me just use those paddles that are on the wall. I said, ma'am, I can't paddle. We don't paddle in this school district. She said, oh, really? She got up, she closed the blinds where I could see down the office. And she said, it's just me and you in here now. Hit him, that type of thing. I said, ma'am, I can't do that. I can't hit him, She said, no. And she grabbed the paddle herself. She said, hit him. And she smacked him, pow. I said, ma'am, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to take him home. I can't witness you doing that. This lady, she jumped at me, hit him. She threw the paddle in my hand. I just tapped him like that. She said, no, hit him. And she took the paddle, bam. So I got one good one in. She said, what do I need to sign? Because I ain't coming back up here anymore. You his dad when he's not here. I said, oh God, don't start that mess. So I said, ma'am, there's nothing you can sign to let me paddle your child. You're just going to have to deal with him. She said, well, if I have to come back up here again, then I'm just going to paddle him in front of everybody. Ma'am, you can't do that. You can't do that. Parents will come up there and try to embarrass their kids. And I will admit, I had one kid, one student he was off the chain, and he's a big old guy, and his father was smaller than him. His daddy came up there one day when I called him. I don't know if you guys know about the leather strap that old time barbers used to use to sharpen a razor. He had one of those, you had the string to fold it up. So he came up there. He said, I just need a room. So I let him go in the back. I knew what he was going to do. And the boy needed it, really. He should have done it at home, but, I was like, yeah, you need to do it here at the school. So, people will know that he got what he got. And, not by the books, but it worked because he was demure the rest of the school year. But it sounded like World War II now. And I had to go in a couple of times. I said, sir. All right. And so, he had to deal with that. Many other adventures I had over those 5 years. The sports events that we had, were a lot of fun. We would get up on Saturday mornings and go to football games. We would all go to the basketball games. We really supported our kids, and they knew that we cared about them because we were always there. Year 4, at the end of year 4, I started. One of the assistant principals he interviewed and got hired as a principal at the school. So I was like, okay, might be time for me to start looking around, to do something different too. So I started interviewing. The school district where I worked, the Board of Education was very funny acting. I'll just say that, because, they wanted you to cater to them. And a lot of people got positions because they catered to them. I was not going to do that. So my principal at the middle school got promoted to a position at the district. I was basically the senior administrator at that time, and everybody just knew I was going to become the principal of the school. I interviewed, thought everything went well, found out that they promoted an assistant principal from another school, from a high school. He came over, and he was just the total opposite of her. And basically the school, the culture just hit rock bottom. By then I lived in another school. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. It was important to me to be close to my schools. When the school that I was first hired, the elementary school, I got an apartment probably about 1.5 miles away. I lived right outside of the attendance area, so the kids that lived in my complex went to another school. The middle school opened up. It was basically a 1/2 mile. I could walk there every day. It was that close to where I lived. And so But again, the kids in my school district, in my complex, went to a different school, even though this school was just like I said, like a half a mile away. While I was there, I bought a house, which ended up being that was a commute. It's about, I didn't have to get on the highway though, but it was about a 20-30 minute ride, I think, to get to work. And when it was in a different county as well. So after that situation happened with the promotion of the other assistant principal, who kind of resented me, because the staff really looked up to me as the original administrator that was still there. He kept trying to make it hard for me a little bit. And so I was like, let me just interview, let me apply for some other places. I interviewed in the district. My secretary lived in the same county that I lived in. And she mentioned about, why don't you apply there? And so I applied there. I applied for 3 schools. I got 2 interviews and was hired as principal at 1 school. That promotion meant a lot to me because I was interviewing in my district where people knew me. And because I didn't kiss behind, I didn't get a position. This school district, nobody knew me. But based on my record and my experience, they hired me as a principal. So in the next video, I will talk about the principal position is going to be a 2-part because there's a lot that happened. I was principal in different settings, an elementary setting, a pre-K 5 setting, elementary, a pre-K 8 setting in Chicago. I was director at an educational center. I was principal at a charter school, K-5, and I was principal at an alternative facility school that was 6 through 12. So stay tuned for video 3 and 4, where I'll split those 2 stories up because it's a lot. It's a lot. Thanks again, Yabonga. Peace.